Место неприятное. Соответственно, будем молиться, пока репортаж.
For the first time, the North Korean Koksan self-propelled artillery unit was destroyed on the front line. Fighters of the 412th Nemesis Regiment in Luhansk hit the rare 170mm M 1978 Koksan self-propelled artillery unit. The firing range of this self-propelled gun with a high explosive fragmentation shell reaches 43 kilometers, and with an active reactive shell, 54 to 60 kilometers. We have a so-called negative offensive of the Russian disoriented forces on the Novopavlivka sector in the area of responsibility of the 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade. Russians deployed an armored column led by a mine-clearing turtle tank. Ukrainian drones and artillery destroyed it and hunted for scattered infantry. Russian occupying forces spent 6 hours trying to breach the defenses of Ukraine's 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade in Donetsk Oblast, Militarny reports. The brigade's unmanned systems battalion shared footage on Telegram showing the destruction of Russian equipment and infantry, but did not specify the exact location of the assault. For months, Russia has been pushing to capture the remaining parts of Donetsk Oblast in eastern Ukraine, with a focus on Pokrovsk, Kurakhove, Chasiv Yar, and other Ukrainian strongholds. Pokrovsk has been the focal point of Russia's ground assaults. By late summer 2024, the situation near Pokrovsk had deteriorated with renewed Russian advances in the east. Ukrainian defenders used FPV drones and artillery with cluster munitions to neutralize the assaulting enemy. The 110th Brigade reported that the Russians deployed an armored vehicle column for the assault, led by a barn tank, the ad hoc modification for carrying infantry, better known as turtle tank. The vehicle was also equipped with a mine roller to traverse across the Ukrainian minefields. After aerial reconnaissance detected the Russian movement, drone operators began targeting the vehicles. First, they destroyed an MTLB, from which infantry managed to disembark after the initial FPV strike. Next, an immobilized BMP-1 was hit, with footage showing it catching fire. Following this, Ukrainian drones burned a Russian BTR-82A that was abandoned by occupiers near the road. Drone operators then began destroying the Russian turtle tank, which had also been immobilized and abandoned by the Russians. After several hits, it caught fire from within. Afterward, operations began to eliminate enemy infantry who had managed to scatter among the ruins of the settlement. In addition to drones, Ukrainian artillery targeted the Russian infantry with cluster munitions. Ukrainians struck trenches, buildings, and basements where the scattered Russian forces were hiding. Drone operators also hunted individual occupiers who remained alive after previous strikes. Russians have repeatedly complained about the number of Ukrainian drones, and this is how they decided to tackle the problem, covering the roads they use with fishing nets.
Как тачка не подводит? Так, выезжаем на бодрую дорожку, поэтому... Место неприятное. Соответственно, будем молиться, пока репортаж.
Дороги, пыли да туман.
Everyone should listen to Ukrainian President Zelensky very carefully here. The US administration, the Russians, and the rest of the world. Trying to negotiate about Ukraine without Ukraine won't work, and Ukrainians will not be scared or forced into anything by anyone.
Russia attacked Ukraine, and we had no choice but to take up arms and defend ourselves. And there was no diplomacy because Russia attacked Ukraine at night, and Ukrainians took up arms and began to defend their country without the help of any nation in the world. That's how it was. No one in Ukraine was helping at that moment. And then when everyone saw that Putin couldn't take over our country, that our people and military weren't going anywhere, that the president of Ukraine wasn't running away, then everyone understood that Ukraine needed help. And only then did this or that help begin in varying amounts from different countries. Russia issued an ultimatum at that moment. Reduction of the number of Ukraine's armed forces, recognition of the occupied territories of Ukraine as territories of Russia. The leadership of the state is pro-Russian, so that it is entirely within Putin's vertical. And I have the impression that some negotiations are taking place now, and they are happening with the same sentiment, but they are happening between representatives of Russia and representatives of the United States. About Ukraine, again about Ukraine and without Ukraine, it's interesting if at the most difficult moment we did not agree to all these ultimatums, why does it feel like Ukraine is approaching this now? As for Turkey then, after the ultimatum, Russia made the same ultimatum in Belarus at the meeting, and the same ultimatum after Belarus in Turkey. We understand that no agreements, neither during the occupation of Kyiv with the Russians, there were no agreements. During the meeting in Belarus, no agreements. During the meeting in Turkey with the Russians. As the president of Ukraine, I did not guarantee anything to anyone. I did not confirm anything to anyone. Moreover, I was not going to yield to Russia's ultimatums, and I am not going to.
European leaders are discussing the possibility of sending several peacekeeping teams to Ukraine to support Russia's compliance with a possible peace agreement. The Washington Post reported on this. According to the newspaper, the partners are developing a strategy for sending troops to Ukraine, totaling 25,000 to 30,000 soldiers, as part of a ceasefire agreement. The U.S. has ruled out the possibility of sending U.S. troops to Ukraine. However, according to the WAPO, Trump's team does not rule out the prospect of supporting European forces and has already sent a request for what kind of support from the United States might be needed. Requests from European countries include intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities, as well as potential air cover or some air defense assistance to protect the forces. 4 officials briefed on the talks told the publication. According to the newspaper sources, the latest version of European planning envisages a contingent of several brigades, from 25,000 to 30,000 troops, which will not be deployed along the contact line. But they will be prepared to demonstrate force if Russian troops attempt to resume the war. These forces can be supported by more forces outside of Ukraine, in case they need to build up their forces quickly. France has estimated that it could commit around 10,000 troops. However, other European countries are more concerned or face limited military capabilities, 2 of the officials told the publication. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Sir Keir Starmer, stated he was ready to deploy peacekeepers to Ukraine to ensure the implementation of any peace agreement. The Swedish Prime Minister also confirmed that his country could send troops to the post-war peacekeeping force in Ukraine. In an interview with the Washington Post, Dutch Defense Minister Ruben Brekelmans stated that the plan requires more than just political support from the United States. It is, of course, about security guarantees for Ukraine, but it is directly related to our defense and deterrence within NATO. We are having discussions among European countries and with the United States about what each country can do. Over the next few weeks, this should become more concrete in terms of numbers, he said on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stated that it is too early to talk about sending European peacekeepers to Ukraine. The active phase of the Russian war is still ongoing, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that the country is not considering sending its own soldiers to Ukraine for a peacekeeping mission. On February 14th, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Ukraine had prepared a plan for the deployment of partner troops to prevent Russian aggression after the ceasefire.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.